Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. I love helping people to discover different ways to love their life and live their passion by integrating spirit, mind, and body. And I often, of course, have on this show guests who love doing the same. And today I'm bringing back Jayem Hammer, who is recognized as the channel for Jeshua ben Joseph, also known to many of us as Jesus. He channeled the ever popular series, The Way of Mastery. It is a book series, but I listened to it on YouTube, the original channelings, and it was transformational. Today, we're exploring one of the profound concepts presented in the Way of Mastery series, and that is the concept of self-love. What does it mean to be self-love and truly loving oneself as the creation of spirit? Let's find out. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and I have with me a special returning guest, Jayem Hammer. And together we invite you to just take a moment to breathe and just check in. Who are you being as you listen to this podcast? Just ask yourself, how am I listening? And I just invite you to listen with that open heart, anticipating the wonderful gem that you will hear, that you will remember about yourself in this wonderful podcast, because what you look for, you will find. So, welcome, JM. It is so good to have you back on the show. I've just been very excited about this discussion because you and I have talked about the idea that came up a little bit last time we spoke, and it's the idea of self love as described in the Way of Mastery series that you channeled, in particularly the Way of Knowing. I was just going to read this little bit to let the viewers, the listeners, in on what we know. It is impossible to extend praise of the Creator without fully loving oneself, without embracing and loving the particular manifestation of God as you. You cannot fully step into the complete expression of the praise of the Creator. Therefore, you have heard me say unto you many times that the veil that keeps you from the kingdom is the lack of self-love. Self-love is essential to return to the kingdom, for self-love is the love of the Creator. You cannot love the Creator while rejecting the Creator's creation. That is, it is so beautiful. I just,
Yes, it touches us if we can take a breath and just allow it to touch us. Everything he shares emanates this deep vibration of pure truth, pure wisdom. And those words are conveyor belts. They carry this vibration that seeps behind our usual minds and its filters, and it touches the deep part of our being, what he calls the deep heart. Yeah, sometimes it's like what you just read of taking a nice deep breath and relaxing, allowing that vibration just to touch. In Aramaic, dihinom, to be touched by what is greater than the self. Yes, self-love. That it's, I think we might be able to safely say it's probably the one most difficult thing most people deal with. No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Well, I was going to say what came up for me is the, I think it's the most difficult for me, so I would imagine for others, is it feels so easy to look at God's creations as other people, as, family, friends, people in our lives, pets, animals, nature, all these things, and we see that creation and we see the beauty of it, and we can love that. But when we turn that around and we're looking in the mirror, sometimes we feel the things for ourselves, for myself, that I have not been loving, that I have not been as kind as I could have been, that I have not been as, um, just that the expression that I really would have liked myself to be. So it becomes self judgment, that I'm not worthy, or, not able to forgive myself for ways I have been in the past. And so it's easy to look out there and to love that. And like you said, that's the one of the most difficult things. It brings up a lot for me.
I'm just going to sit here and take a breath and let everything you just shared land. I want you to know I hear you, I feel you. It's one of the most difficult things to do when we turn awareness back on ourselves. We begin to notice the traces of memory, perceptions in which we have measured ourselves against some standard. We've heard messages from disapproval from others. So self-love then really becomes the eye of the needle to really break through into union. We know we can love others. Most beings have an easier time, just as you said, with that, because it's out there. So if we can do that, that's not going to enlighten us, but learning to turn and welcome exactly the self judgment, the energy of guilt, the perception, the energy of unworthiness, and to welcome these voices. And what you said was so beautiful in the way of transformation. It talks about exactly what you brought up. As you're doing this, the great temptation will be then to judge yourself as you welcome the experiences you've had, the choices, the contexts. And up will come something that wants to trigger a judgment, a sadness, a sense of failure. And right there, can I take a deep breath and just welcome this feeling and this inner perception just as it is. Just let it be there just as it is. Yeah, of course. It may take us a while to realize we are choosing love in that very moment. We're welcoming a fragment of our own being, our own journey. Somewhere he uses, as he describes his process, he uses the analogy of lost sheep. We're welcoming the fragments of ourselves. Judgment pushes something away. We forget it, we bury it, where it works on our subconscious. But when we turn toward it and let it be welcomed, the only thing we can welcome it into is the presence of love. And if we can just breathe and be with it and look upon it, we may need to allow some energy or feeling to pass through. Perfectly okay. What it does is it loosens its grip. It begins to dissolve and soften. Much like you're a mother, there was a time when you pick up your child and rock him in your arms when he was crying or whatever. It's like the loving mother welcomes the child into the lap of our awareness. And each of these fragments are what he calls in A Course in Miracles the obstacles to the presence of peace.
Mm.
The things we've fragmented off, the things that we've hated or judged. And it's the very judgment of them that causes the body mind to generate unworthiness, despondency, unworthiness. These are qualities of feeling, a loss of wholeness, a loss of joy, a loss of peace. We're actually hurting ourselves. So, and stop and go, you know what would it be like just to initiate a practice in which maybe every day for 10 minutes, okay, Holy Spirit, I'm just going to rest in my breath, turn awareness back upon my own journey. Show me the fragments that are calling for my love, and they will come. Can I take a nice deep breath and welcome it like a loving mother would welcome the child? Because in reality, this memory, this judgment is pure energy that we've crystallized into a certain kind of a vibration. And that vibration diminishes peace, joy, and therefore the capacity for vision, revelation, guidance, direction to really land in our being. Does that make sense for you?
Oh, absolutely. I love that idea of taking the time every day in a practice of self-love with the intention of recalling whatever wants to come up for us to embrace as the parent and the child. It's something we talked a little bit about last time, is that unconditional love of the parent. That, I mean, one of the worst things I can imagine is seeing my child in, self-loathing, or, in a way that he is not embracing all of himself. And so when you see that as a parent, it's like you can't imagine, because all you do is love this child, all of it, all of what makes it unique and special. And if we turn the analogy around as to loving ourselves and all the things that we have been through to get us right to this moment where we can stop fragmenting ourselves and breaking off little pieces of ourselves that we don't love, that we don't like, but instead we just recall them and just say, you are perfect. Whatever needed to happen happened, and whatever needs to be, loved into wholeness right now can just come into this loving embrace. And it's just beautiful, a beautiful invitation, I think, of a practice of self-love. And I think it includes, and I know the course talks about this a bit, as well as the Way of Mastery series, is the idea of forgiveness, but it's not the forgiveness that we kind of grew up with. Like, please forgive me. It's really more of what you just described as an acceptance and a knowing of wholeness is forgiving. It's making whole. I think you said that
Mhm.
somewhere.
Yeah, what you just said is really spot on. We've been given a skewed notion of forgiveness if we look through the lens of Jeshua's teachings, even his original Aramaic teachings. The word washwoklan really has nothing at all to do with the mind saying, please forgive me, not even I forgive myself. The word literally means um, to disentangle threads that have been bound together, to let go of a hidden fear, to be returned to original wholeness as a feeling quality, a felt sense. This is forgiveness. It's more of an alchemy of energy than something that is conceptual. I remember saying exactly what you used as an example many times when I was growing up. Please forgive me. What I'm really saying is, Mom and Dad, let me off the hook. I'm being very
Just
selfish there.
just pretend that didn't happen.
Even I will try to ignore what I just did, which I fragment myself, and I have another part that will wait for all of eternity to be welcomed back into the field of our love, because love is what we are. We are the emanation of God. That's what gives us our pure existence. And God is love. That is it. We've all made choices and, as you said, haven't been as kind or been judgmental or gossiping or whatever, self-centered. But all of that, all of those were moments in which we were lacking being at rest in original wholeness. We're not in the remembrance of that union. We can't trust it. So we make up our own decisions, our own thoughts. We operate from fear. We've all done this. In fact, it's what makes this world, is the attempt to edge God out.
Mm.
And we are in need of our own forgiveness by turning back and welcoming the fragmented parts of our own being. They really are like children that have been locked outside the warm house on a cold, wintry night. And they'll keep knocking until, can I learn to turn toward them and rest in the breath, what he calls the Rukkhada Kodshab, one cosmic holy breath, and welcome that child just as it's been. Once he gave me a question to use, and I found it incredibly valuable as I went through the practices of welcoming the fragmented parts of my own being, which sometimes felt like there would be no end to that. As I welcomed them back, I would have emotion, feeling. I could see the temptation of the mind to, judging myself and all that. And the question he gave me was this: what's been the one jewel I've experienced through this that might have been difficult any other way? What's been the real fruit of it? And I began to see a pattern that all the fragmented parts of our journey, we could call it the journey of the prodigal son outside the kingdom, what it did was it fueled my longing to find union, to find peace. Makes sense? So, where we've judged ourselves, there's a sense of lack. Where we've acted in a way that may have been genuinely hurtful to another, whatever it may have been, there's an energy that elicits within us called guilt. Yet you start to see that guilt finally begins to fuel your desire to find it. I looked at all this, and that's interesting. By welcoming these fragments and learning not to be so quick to judge, but to breathe, just welcome it as it is, allow feeling, emotion, whatever it may be, I began to discern that they all had a commonality. They revealed to me that some part of me knew something was lacking. There's something I'm seeking. It's not working. So therefore, seek again. And gradually, it literally turns us toward the desire to awaken, to heal. It's almost like, could it have been God casting a fishing line and finally hooking me and beginning to reel me in, even though I kick and scream? Yet finally, I just want to be with the fishermen. So there's this beautiful energy inside everything we've ever experienced. There's a jewel. And if we pause and just ask ourselves that question, with practice, it begins to open up an essence and a depth that we can't see if we give in to the judgment, the unworthiness, the reaction that closes the heart, makes us go watch a movie or something. But just to welcome the children onto our lap. They will bring gifts. We'll see things. We'll feel that longing and realize that all of those things, as you said, have been a very important aspect of our journey. We've tasted separation, we know its effect, and it's fueled our longing to heal, to grow, to love, to create.
Mm.
We can actually learn to feel gratitude. Gratitude, which, if I could share this, in the process of healing, returning to original wholeness, with any fragment that we allow to come back to us, if we just remain with it long enough, feel what's there, see it, ask ourselves what the jewel is, as we begin to welcome it, like a loving mother welcomes the crying child, there's a place where we start to feel gratitude. Gratitude for the child, just as the child is and how the child was. Now we can hold the child, which is what we couldn't do then. Now we can. We start to feel this delicious frequency of gratitude. And somewhere in one of the very earlier channelings, he said that when you experience gratitude for any event you have experienced, rest assured there's nothing left to be here. There's just gratitude. Part of us can say, thank you for my journey. Every little bit of it. And all the ways that my journey actually fueled my longing to awaken, to seek for God, to discover how to love.
Mm.
And it can all
What a
begin.
beautiful benchmark that we can have to, as we do this practice of inviting those moments in, of allowing the space to know when that is complete, and that is that sense of allowing, and I imagine allowing first and then gratitude. And as you said, then there's nothing left to heal. There's that sense of wholeness. We're complete with ourself, and ourself is the emanation of spirit or God's creation. And I want to go back to something you said about, the parent. And I know many of us grew up with a sense of God as a parent, but a pretty harsh, say the least, parent. This idea of God as being very judging, as being, condemning to hell, which of course I, for my own personal self, have reconciled any ideas of that and what hell means for me, and that would be another great conversation. But it's that idea of, I think that what we have as for many of us is, I want to push all of that away. So if I can't see it, maybe God won't see it. And it is that idea of
Yep.
the teenager going, I didn't do that.
Yep.
No, what me?
Mhm.
Wasn't
Yep.
me.
Nope. Wasn't me that cut down the cherry tree in George Washington. In other words, I'm in denial and hoping to keep everyone else and keep myself in delusion, but that's not where love is real.
It really isn't God. We've put our human capacity to judge and to be limited and to separate on the deity. You know, we've said, oh, God is like man, not man is like God. We've turned it around the wrong way. And so now we do have, many of us grow up with this skewed idea of this very harsh and condemning father. And I think as you were describing this, and as we were talking about the mother and the child, we can really shift the ideas around what God really is that energy of pure love, unadulterated, unconditioned, and there is nothing outside of it. In other words, there's nothing that cannot be loved, nothing. And you and I both mean that quite literally, that it's all in God, and we're always able to see the jewel when we ask the question from the heart.
Very much so. And ask the question and be willing to be with what arises as the result of the asking. It could be an inner image, a memory, a feeling state that just needs to be allowed. One way that he likes to put it in this discussion of love, and so much of, I think, what he did in the way of mastery is this constant undermining of the false perceptions of God that we've been given. One thing he said amongst the many things was, love allows all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and thereby is transcendent of all things. But what you truly long for in the depth of your being is to love as God loves. Therefore, turn and discover what you've not yet been able to welcome and embrace it, allow it, and therefore experience the way God loves. And when we can hold something and come to that gratitude, it's a palpable experience. Everything softens. I like to say from soul to cell. The story is gone. There's just gratitude. The nervous system relaxes. The breath deepens. I feel more present right where I am. Gratitude. It's as if love, if we can rest in and just sustain being in it, dissolves the hard edges and the reactions. It's like clouds dissolving in a clear blue sky. It just vanishes. There's really nothing left. There's no judgment of self or other. There's only gratitude. And where there is gratitude, love is present. Operate through us again,
Mm,
even more deeply than it could at that time. Here
yes.
to discover how to love as God loves.
Yes, to love as God loves is our birthright. Every time we limit how we love, who we love, that we love, every time we limit that, we are separating ourselves from God, from Spirit, the Creator. we're believing in the illusion of separation, because that isn't who we are. Ultimately, we are only love. And I just, and this turning it, like I said, it feels easy to keep it out there, but to turn it within and to bless those things. And I did, this came to me last time, and I found why it came to me. And I'm going to read this again. It says, self-love is the perfection of all spiritual practice. Self-love is the final shining ray of light that illuminates the heart of the individuated, that illumines the heart of the individuated ray of light that you are. Self-love transfigures the mind, the emotional body, and even the physical body to the degree that it strongly shines into the cells of the body. And that's, I remember this coming to me as that all of our spiritual practices, when you, and it's, a lot of people have a practice of forgiveness and of gratitude, of surrender, certainly meditation, self-inquiry, ho'oponopono, whatever it is, they're all leading us to and allowing us to love ourself. It's that's it, and that's kind of where I got that. They allow us to know and experience ourself as the divine expression that we were created to be, is release. And they're all, isn't it interesting that they're all forms of of releasing what is not true and embracing what is true.
Yeah, as we, and it is a very necessary journey. Somewhere he says really brilliantly, it's not necessary to seek for love because that is what you are, but it is necessary to seek for what is false,
Mm.
to become aware of the patterns that I've taken on unconsciously and have learned, like God is a wrathful God. Oh my God. Oh, wait a minute. Let me take a look at that one. We do need to turn, he calls it turning back to your creations.
Mm.
And he says this because for Jeshua, he wants us to understand that while union with God is our only reality, in our sovereign freedom as the Christ, infinite, unborn, undying, one of our creations that we wanted to experience was being without God.
Mhm.
Can I generate the forgetfulness of God? And we've birthed everything that has come from it: guilt, judgment, all of it, ego. These become veils that trap us only because we fail to just love our creation and see its harmlessness. So it leaves all of us in a place where, yes, there is a journey back to Washwoklan, original wholeness. And it does take turning back to our creations. What have I believed? A question he asks in the way of the heart that's so fundamental. And to begin to be curious, why do I think what I think? Why do I feel what I feel? Why do I do what I do? Where's this really been coming from? And to begin to be willing to look upon your life, your creation, becomes the very means of seeing into the dream of separation itself. And the more we see into it, the more we see through it, and the more we are liberated from being identified with it. So there is for everyone. We have to leave the realm of denial and turn to the realm of embrace. And
Mm.
turning back, welcoming these. Okay, so if I welcome all the fragments of myself I've repressed, buried, hated, and judged, Jeshua is saying once you do that, you're back in the love of God. Well, if that really lands and I get that, why would I want to delay any longer?
Yes. Why would I delay any longer? The kingdom of heaven is at hand now.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And each time we do turn back, just to take a breath and say, okay, Spirit, show me the fragments of myself that are crying out to be welcomed home. We are at rest in the reality of love. Just do that. And we get to experience that there is this capacity within us that can welcome all things,
Mm.
allow all things, even begin to see maybe this wasn't the big mistake and failure I've perceived it to be. All things arise for a reason and a purpose in our journey. As he said it to me, it's in the Jeshua letters. Come to see that there have never been, you've never made a wrong turn in your journey. There is no such thing as failure, only ceaseless unfolding, ceaseless growth.
I love that expression, that idea. It's funny because I've recently been teaching my son that you can't make a wrong decision because that he's 21, and for many of us at every stage of our life we think, oh, this is such a big decision, it's huge, it's the biggest decision I'll ever make, do I do this or should I do this? And I'm like, well, you can't make a wrong decision, which is not really what people want to hear sometimes. It's like, no, you don't understand how big this decision is. I could make the wrong decision. And I think
Mm,
really about almost, I can't imagine that there's an exception to this rule, but about almost everything, that whatever decision we make is not the final decision. We think it's a final decision, but it isn't. Because out of that decision, there's another dozen decisions that will come up, or even if it's this decision to turn around and make another decision, it
yeah.
it's only time and space and energy to gather information and to make another decision.
Mhm.
And so, yes, I just love the idea and remembering that we cannot make a wrong decision. Everything
Mhm.
is just informing us of of our state of being as we made that decision. If we made that decision in fear or in lack or in judgment, we might get some of those things coming back to us to say, hey, this is how you made that decision, so you're experiencing this lack. And if we again use that as information to make a new decision, to be in love and embracing our true essence, our true nature, the next decision will come out of that, as you said, embracing what has been come before, and it will be a new experience, and an experience that reflects the wholeness in which that decision was made.
Absolutely. And again, it's in those moments if we could just ask, what's something I've discovered or learned from this that might not have any other way? Yeah, I've learned that when I choose from fear, what unfolds in my life actually doesn't generate the fulfillment I'm seeking. That's a pretty darn valuable thing to have learned. It's very precious, very, very precious. Of course, ultimately, if we begin to recognize that one of the the journey we have in the ego is that we believe I am alone in making my decision. I have to be the one that figures out. In reality, that's never true.
Mm.
If my commitment is to what is the thing that I most want? What is the thing I most want? Perfect peace, to flow in the wisdom of the universe. I think I'll invite spirit, welcome in and join me in the creation of the decision that truly serves the deepest good for myself and all beings. So if we could remember to relax right at the moment we believe we're all alone
Mm.
and must make a decision. In reality, that perception is an illusion because it's impossible to be alone or separate from God. So since we have this access to this field of wisdom, this deeper soul, why not learn to what he calls seek first the kingdom or the queendom? Rest first, remember the truth. As you rest into that, now ask, I wonder what decision would really, truly, however you word that, my highest joy or whatever it might be. From this place of recognizing that you're not alone and that you can trust this field of wisdom, this field of light, which is actually where you exist, like a fish in the ocean. Yeah. It comes bit by bit. Like it sounds like from what you shared about your son. Yeah, I remember those days. I am all alone. This is I. Oh my God, that's what makes it so big. Is it? Oh my God, I've got to make a decision. Wait a minute, I'm making a decision to choose something that I've actually never experienced yet. so, so I'm putting such a pressure on myself right there. Take a deep breath, go, you know what? God is here. There's an infinite light. However, he may word that, there's a deeper wisdom in me. I know it's there. I think I'll kick back, relax, and let it come forth and join me. Just help me, guide me down the choice of decision that really serves what I most truly want. Deep peace, joy, whatever that is. Get in touch with that first and then allow spirit to be your co-driver. It's a big step on the journey. Just realizing that we are not ever alone.
Mhm. Yes, that's very powerful is just what you described. That's such a beautiful practice. Every time we have a decision, and it could be the little decision or what we think is a big decision, and it's relaxing into it, into the light that we are and the wholeness and the fullness of that expression. And of course you were smiling when you said it, just relaxing into it. And I do recognize that some people have that hard time of surrendering, because it feels like we're surrendering to something other than, but it's not true. We're actually surrendering to the truth of our wholeness,
Mm,
one with, in, through, and as God. So it's
yeah.
not something separate than us, God over there, out there somewhere. It's the God that is our expression and our fullness and our wholeness. So
Yeah.
a lot of
It's like
beautiful practices.
it's like a if you imagine yourself being a wave, wait a minute. Not only do I not have to get myself to shore by myself, I can't because I'm connected to the depth of the ocean. Maybe I should relax and welcome that part of my being to participate with me and
Enjoy the ride.
let it surf this wave. let the power of this depth, whether we call it myself, soul, God, there is this deeper ocean. In Aramaic, he calls it the Shem, this light that really is the emanation of the divine from which all creation arises, which got translated as the Holy Spirit. There's this, today in physics, we might call it the unified field of all potentiality. There's this supra intelligence, just like the ocean is a supra, or far greater volume of water than any wave could ever have. Why not trust it's been there forever? It knows how to be an ocean. Maybe I can trust this. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is, if I notice I'm in tension around a decision, I've learned, of course, that that's the symptom that I'm actually in illusions. If I'm in tension around a decision, I'm already in separation. I'm already cut off. That's the symptom of it.
Mm.
Wait a minute, what would the opposite of this be? Relaxed into flow, restored in trust, my breath flowing. The wave can trust the ocean from which it's arisen. I can have fun with it. Say, okay, ocean, what do you think? What would really carry me to the shore where I really want to be? And this light will begin to inform us because we're allowing it the space to come into our awareness. It just So if we all look for the symptoms of separation, when do I get tense? When does my mind get really busy? Oh my God, this is the biggest decision I've ever made. Oh my God, wait a minute. Or is that a symptom of trust, peace, or is it a symptom of having lost them? So let the first journey be to restore it. If that means taking a long walk, putting on music, doing whatever you got to do just to, okay.
Well, in a society where one of our biggest symptoms is stress and anxiety, it's, rather than ignoring it, which is what I imagine the first choice of most people is, and the second being taking a pill for it, which is
Mm.
necessary at times for those who need that. I'm not knocking it, but
Mhm.
as it would be interesting as a society if we taught our children what you just said, that one of the first symptoms of being in a sense of separation is that tenseness, that anxiety, that this sense that we don't know and that we are alone. And if we recognize that as, wow, when you feel like that, that is just a feeling that when we address it with these questions, like maybe I can relax into this, maybe I can invite a solution to come through me without the angst and the stress and the worry. And if we were teaching that to our children by the time they became
Mm.
young adults and of course older adults, we would
Mm.
have changed and shifted this number one, epidemic in our society, the stress and anxiety in a generation. And but what we can do now is exactly what you've invited us to do, is to be with that as adults and then to begin to influence ourselves. And that kind of brings us back to that idea of self-love. It's so beautiful. I know we all do this. We want to fix those people around us. It's like, oh, you're so stressed, you should do this or you should do that. But if we turn that around and we just look at our lives, are we loving ourselves enough to
Mm.
bring back those pieces and to experience peace and to release that tenseness, that anxiety around our personal decisions, around those things? Are we going to love ourselves enough to be still, enough to listen to that small, still voice for ourselves, and then be that light for other people? It's like, how are you always so peaceful when all this is going on in our corporate environment or in our economic situation or in our family or whatever the situation is? It's like, well, I can tell you what I did. I can tell you that book that I read, with the
Mm.
practices that I do. I can, share that with you, but it's loving ourselves enough to do it for ourselves first.
What you're talking about is really the essence of one of his core teachings that actually survived the Bible. It's actually in there, I think. Seek first the kingdom, seek first the queendom, and all these things you're seeking will be given you. The answer you're seeking will be there if you first soften what has become rigid within, the fear, the anxiety, the symptoms of separation. And am I in joy? How do I feel when I'm at peace and can trust life? That's what I need to cultivate. When I'm there, I'll invite Spirit to help me see truly the most self loving decision I could make. It will be, it'll just appear and we'll feel it, we'll know it in our being. Seeking first the queendom by recognizing the symptoms of separation, the tenseness of I must make this decision. Is that actually even true? I must make this decision. Maybe I don't need to. I kind of learned over time, doing this work, if the decision, if the direction isn't self evident, it must not be time to do anything. it's it's not shown to me, so I might as well rock in a hammock or you know watch the wind blow through the trees, cultivate gratitude, and wait. It will come when it needs to come.
I love that you said that. Yes, I was recently up for a job in Fort Lauderdale, and I just kept wanting a simple yes or no from
Mm.
spirit. Come on, just heads it's yes, tails it's no. I just wanted the decision. And what it was, though, is the process of going through that for months and preparing
Mm.
talks and workshops and classes and traveling and the process that for us in our time space continuum, took a few, several months, and these activities and hearing feedback and getting results and listening to my heart. It was kind of what you said. It was like the process was how the definitive yes or no showed up. And if we want someone up there, out there telling us, do this, don't do that, well, we've given up our whole sense of freedom. That's not even in our nature, that someone's going to tell us what to do. This parental God up there, out there. It's the process is showing us this feedback, and the answer was, oh wow, very clear, just what I asked for, a very clear answer.
Mm.
And while it was happening, I thought, I just take the next step. Literally,
Mhm.
it's like one step. I can't see the end of the road here. I don't know if it turns left or right, but I take the next step and then the next step.
It will become abundantly clear. It always. So gradually we learn to, well, wait a minute. I've tasted those moments where, yeah, things always make themselves known. It becomes clear. Maybe I can trust the way creation works. And if that means I'm sitting here going, oh, I don't really know if I want to go to that movie with my friends. Okay, that's what is. I don't know. Must don't have to make any decision. You gonna come tonight? I actually don't know. I'm just kind of being and waiting. I'll let you know. And but there's this. The reality of creation is that something is unfolding itself. We are a part of it. And we trust that, like a wave would trust the bigger ocean. Oh, I will know precisely when I know. And it won't be because of anxiety, worry, assessing this and that, and what's the worst, what's the best of two evils. There will be a quality of knowing and peace. We just know. Uh, and it's perfectly clear.
Mm.
Can we trust that and just give ourselves permission to allow the universe or the cosmos to make straight our path, to make it obvious, and to trust the very, as you were saying, there will be a process. The process is the holy perfection that's bringing you to that clarity, precisely as you most need to have it unfold, and we trust that. So I like to try to help people look at where they've taken on this fundamental pattern of belief of hearing, not knowing.
Mm.
Why did we do that? I don't know. I've got to know. Is that really true? What if it's okay to not know, to just rest in it? Right now, I don't know if I'm going to the movie. That's what is. Can I welcome, which would be an act of self love? And
Mm.
not knowing is what is. Can I welcome it and rest in it and just be with it as it is? When I can do that, I relax more deeply, and the universe has a way of making it known.
I have this image as you were speaking of the wave and the ocean that comes up for me a lot. And for many of us, it's a beautiful analogy that works very well. Of course, that idea that we're always connected to the whole, even though it appears in instances that we are separate. A wave is never separate from the ocean. And I had this idea that as this wave, we go deep for sure, and we are the whole of all that we are in a wholeness. At the same time, I had this idea that I can't necessarily know what's going on way over there on some other shore, some great depth, as I'm experiencing this myself as this wave. And it was really beautiful because I don't have to know. I don't have to know what's happening way down there or way over there, but I can be in the security of knowing that it's all meant to be as it is, because the whole, does know itself. you know,
Mhm.
way more than I know what all that, what else is supposed to be taking place, or that I need it to all be defined. I can be in the undefined. And
Mm.
going back to
Mm.
that idea that I think causes anxiety for people, the not knowing, and yet what a beautiful art, a beautiful practice of being in not knowing. That's it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the place of freedom and peace. And I liked how you used the word undefined, Could I just be undefined? No need to this part of the mind that quickly must create a box and an identity and I am this, I am that, not that. Just being undefined today. just just be undefined. It's really in essence it's an essential part of the spiritual journey to rest out of the mind and its boxes. Be undefined.
Mm.
I was traveling in the Southwest many years ago, and loved to go to like those old Western ghost towns in Arizona or somewhere. And I came across a cemetery, and I was walking through this really old cemetery, looking at the years, on them. And I came across this headstone, and I can't remember the person's name, so I'll just say John Doe. All it said was John Doe, born 1824, died a grocer. And it just hit me. It's like a definition, defined. So he lived his life and he became known only as a grocer.
Wow.
That's how he died. Do we die when we become so fused to our identity and forget that there's this much greater depth that is undefined? I mean, like, you're a mother, but what if, I mean, you probably can't do this, but imagine you collapsed every other aspect of your being and now you are only a mother. That's it. It's a small, rigid box, and it requires something. The mother must always have a child. What about when the child is 43? So now there's a desperation, and that poor guy who's a grocer, it's like he's got no customers. Oh my God. So our definitions, can I be undefined and realize that the real truth of my being is undefined,
Yeah.
infinite potentialities, and I'll, I'll experience various roles and perspectives, but those come and those go. At one point, the mother, can I give up being the mother? Can I give up being the father? The child, can I give up being my parents' child and become a friend of Ozzy and Harriet? It's like set them free. Let them know you don't have to be my parent any longer.
Right.
It's all about that notion of, can I rest and actually develop it as a practice? Take just a few minutes and just sit and go, the real depth of me is undefined. And the universe will carry me into and through various roles. They'll complete themselves. The essence of my being is undefined and infinite.
Oh, I love that. I had this image of like the grocer. Sometimes we don't have to let go of the definition, but we could expand it, just keep expanding it. As because sometimes we do that, we contract around it. But if we just expanded it until it naturally, as you said, turned into something else. That poor grocer, I feel like, did he ever retire? I mean, he died,
Well,
no longer a
he died.
grocer. He finally
That's what struck,
retired. I don't know.
yeah. It struck me that whoever created the headstone, it's almost as if that's all they could see him as,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
grocer. And to what degree do we end up limiting the ways others see us because we're so locked into a particular definition?
Mm.
Am I actually limiting their capacity to know me? Hmm.
Yes, that's something to expand into.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Hmm.
yeah, this has been, I think, a wonderful exploration for me personally, and I know for others, of just the concepts of self-love as brought up in the wonderful series that you have, the Christ Mind trilogy, the other books and classes and workshops that you do, exploring these wonderful practices, getting us back to guiding us, leading us. Allowing us to expand our ideas of who we are as love, and that idea of self-love, embracing all of who we are until there is gratitude for every little bit, and then we know we are healed and whole. I think that
Hmm.
is so incredibly powerful. Mm.
And in real gratitude, there's an essence quality of gratitude is a kind of infinite humility.
Mm.
Like, wow. It's not an egoistic, pumping yourself up gratitude. I'm so amazing. Now that's ego stuff. I am. My life is unfolded, and when we reach a place where we can truly look at all of our journey and truly know and feel that we would not change an iota because the totality is what has brought me to where I am.
Mm.
And if within me is a desire to love more deeply, to grow in wisdom, to serve, however we may word that, this is a good thing. There are a lot of beings that are completely unconscious to that. They're just surviving. They're just going through life. So if we're awake to those longings, what if that is the divine unfoldingness?
Oh, it is.
Yeah, exactly. So embrace every aspect of the totality of your journey. Welcome the fragmented parts back into this gratitude and this love. And there's an alchemy that liberates us, expands us into increasing potentiality
Mm.
as we learn to love as God loves.
Mm.
In fact, space and time become this joyous ground in which we get to experience that journey.
Yeah.
Right here, right now. Like, yeah, you know what? I am more at peace now than I was last year. I can hold and embrace and accept more of myself and therefore more of the world than ever before. This is a good thing. And how did we get there? As a result of every little fragment of experience we've ever had.
That was beautiful. Yes. Well, thank you. I'm going to end right there. I think that is the perfect package of everything we've discussed on self-love. And I invite our listeners to be able to reach out to you with questions or comments. They can reach out on the YouTube or through email, things like that. I will have that listed in the notes below. Maybe we spark some ideas for you in your life on, self-love. And there was some practices, some profound practices, and some, what I love is how we know if those practices are working is, the results of those practices is feeling more whole, feeling gratitude, feeling at peace with all of who we have ever been. So, if you'd like to know more, or perhaps you'd like to see JM in an upcoming workshop or class, you can check out his website. JM, can you tell our viewers the best way to find out all about you?
Yeah, the best way is to go to wayofmastery.com, and everything is usually listed there. We also, by the way, have a beautiful library with all of the teachings Jeshua's brought forth. You can have a ball. I hear from so many, we have a thing called Searchy. So you can just go in and type self love, and the AI program pulls up from all of these sources, Way of the Heart, the early years, boom, everything you said about self love, and you can just immerse in it, or forgiveness, or whatever you want to, just drop it in and have a ball, and it will take you on a journey. So wayofmastery.com is where you can access everything you need to know.
I love that. And my favorite thing, as we talked about the last time you and I spoke on the podcast, was listening to the original channelings on your YouTube channel, and that is at Way of Mastery Official. And there are original channelings in your voice. I call you the voice of Jeshua, and they're just so beautiful. They're very transformational. It was for me, I know for many people that I've recommended those to. And it's just such a beautiful way to experience the teachings, is
Mm-hmm.
being able to hear your voice as they're revealed. It's just a very beautiful experience for me.
And it's still a surreal one for me because I can recognize it as my voice. Let's just say that voice is being used from a much different level of wisdom and consciousness. It's like, anyway, it's always been surreal to hear my voice, but the way he utilizes it, and even my English language, and he turns it into something that reveals such depth of wisdom. And there's a real vibration that comes through those original audios. It just, you can breathe and kick back and just let the vibration pour in. It's literally pouring light into your being.
That's exactly how I felt.
Mm.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to invite our viewers to be sure to hit the like button and subscribe and share this with a friend. Maybe they would like to begin the journey of self-love and self-mastery. And please leave a comment if you'd like to share your journey of how you've experienced these teachings of Jeshua. So thank you, Jon Marc Hammer, for joining me today. And I thank all of our listeners for spending this time with us. Next time, we're going to speak about, I'm hoping, the original Aramaic for the Lord's Prayer, and maybe some other things, because we touched on that just a tiny bit last time and people have asked about that. So we're going to have another podcast. I'm just predicting that somewhere in our future. But until then, I'm Elizabeth Cantey. This is Living Enlightened Every Day. Join me each week for a new episode, a new insight into how we can just love our life and live our passion and live in love. So remember to laugh, love, and love yourself as the Creator loves you every day. Thank you.
Thank you.